Welcome to today's episode of How the Game Was Won. Today we're looking at the game between Carlsen and Karjakin from the Masters Final in Bilbao. This game played on the 15th of July 2016. And what is significant about this game is that in November, Karjakin is the challenger for Magnus Carlsen's World Championship title. And what's important to realize here that for the entire tournament, my prediction is that Carlsen is not utilizing any of his pre-World Championship match preparation strategy, but he might have uncorked one of those openings in this specific game to be able to drive home a significant psychological advantage ahead of the match. Without further ado, let's look how the opening transpired. We begin with e4, c5, knight f3, d6, c3, knight f6, bishop e2. And I'm going to pause here just for a moment because I went through my huge database of games, and I've noticed that on no less than 200 occasions in this exact position we have games between highly rated players. On 200 occasions, games between highly rated players. Black plays knight takes on e4 in this position. Obviously Karjakin didn't do that, but in 200 occasions black plays knight takes e4, which obviously opens up the possibility of white playing queen a4 check, and the knight falls immediately after that. But getting back to the game in hand, after bishop e2, Karjakin played g6. We've got castles, bishop g7, bishop b5. In this position, just as a side note, in the game Carlsen versus Wang in 2013, Wang played bishop d7 with, after bishop takes b7 check, knight f takes d7, d4, castles, bishop g5, knight c6, d5, knight c to e5, knight f to d2, b5 and a4. The game continued for a further 64 moves before being drawn. But in this case, after bishop b5 check, Karjakin played knight c6, d4, queen b6, bishop a4, queen c takes d4, c takes d4, castle short, d5, knight b8, knight c3, bishop g4, h3, bishop takes f3, queen takes f3, knight b to d7, rook b1, rook fc8, bishop c2, knight e5, queen e2, knight f to d7, bishop g5, h6, bishop h4, g5, bishop g3, queen a5, queen d1, and rook c4. And this move gets a question mark because it simply doesn't make a good impression. In the further course of the game, this rook moves way too often and does way too little. Continuing, king h1, rook a to c8, f4, g takes f4, bishop takes f4, queen b6, queen h5, knight f6, queen f5, queen d8, bishop b3, rook d4, and that rook moves yet again. Bishop takes e5, d takes e5, rook b to d1, queen d7, queen f3, and once again the rook moves, this time to b4. Rook d2, rook f8, and g4. Brilliant move there, and an energetic play on the king's side, and opening up the scope for the rook to swing across onto the g file, possibly followed by the other rook doubling up for a marauding attack to run up the king side of the board. We've got a5, rook g2. White simply starts threatening the to play g5 and totally crack open the king side of the board. Knight h7, h4, rook b6, and there arrives g5. Note, in this situation, Karjakin won't be able to play hg5 simply because h takes g5, d6 is threatened, as opposed to after, for instance, after d6, you've got rook takes d6, bishop f7 check, king h8 and g6, and it's all over while the shouting. But getting back to the game in hand, Karjakin played king h8, rook f2 g1, f5, queen h3, rook b4. This is the sixth move of that rook without being able to achieve really anything in the process. G takes on h6, bishop takes on h6, queen g3, obviously threatening mate on g8. For instance, in this position, rook g6 would have also been strong with bishop f4, queen g2, knight f6, d6, queen d takes on d6, and knight d5. But after queen g3, knight f6, queen g6, knight g4, and white plays rook takes on g4. And in this position, Karjakin resigned, because quite simply, after rook takes on g4, you've got f takes on g4, queen takes on h6 check, king g8, rook g6. All of this is of course forced. King h8, queen h5 check, king g7, and rook g4 check. And after rook g4 check, the only move available to black would be something along the lines of bringing the king out to f6, and all that means that after the king comes out to f6, the white queen goes to g5, and that will be mate. So after the rook takes, after 40 rook takes g4, Karjakin resigned. That's how the game was won, and it's a massive psychological blow to Sergey Karjakin as he is making his preparations for the World Championship match in New York, due for November. Remember to like, share, subscribe, post any comments, questions, criticisms that you have in the comment section down below, and also please let me know if the soundtrack at the moment is running any better than my old videos from 2 to 3 months ago, because I'm running a completely new microphone setup here at the moment. And with that said, remember, stay carved up for the win. I'll see you next time. Cheers.
Go vegan!